Wow. I feel a little nervous, but I think we just gotta just jump in feet first. And we just gotta shake off the rust, shake off the dust, and just start podcasting.
All right.
I mean, there it is.
Poetry.
Welcome everyone to episode 6 of Not Fit for Composition. It has been a long time since we've come to you with a fresh slice of some of the best literary criticism the world has to offer. My God, what a past 6 months it's been. We haven't podcasted and we haven't transmitted to you since mid-June. Can you imagine all the things that happened since mid-June, friends? I am your host, August Smith. I am joined, as always, by two of my finest compatriots, Eleanor Eli Moss. Eleanor, how are you?
Even more heavily medicated than I was the last time.
Okay, well, that's one change that we've had. More medication. Marcus, checking in from New York. How are you?
Alive and kicking.
And we have our second guest episode. And I've been so excited. We've been wanting to do this episode for so long. We have my dear friend, Steph Yue Duhem here, best friend, compatriot, literary companion here in Austin, Texas.
Yes.
Co-worker, neighbor. Steph, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks.
Are you excited to be here?
Yeah, sorry. I'm like trying to figure out when I could work in like, all right. So
Yeah, maybe when we get to the Matthew McConaughey book, I'll be like, what'd you guys think of the poems? And you can say they were all right.
yeah.
Wow. Guys, can we just take a quick moment here and talk about where we've been the past 6 months? I've had a rip-roaring time the past 6 months, let me just say. Does anyone want to ask me about it?
All right.
I just assumed you were going to elaborate.
Yeah, elaborate.
Okay,
Go on.
Elaborate. Well, okay. First of all, my book came out.
Wow! Oh, yeah.
Crowd cheers.
My book came out in July. And I've done 1,000 readings since then. I went on a book tour since then. Steph, we've done a bunch of readings, haven't we?
Yeah.
How many? Like 3 or 4 together at least?
We've done a bunch in Austin and then one in Boston together.
That's right, because you were in Boston at the same time as I was during my book tour.
Yep.
You read at my book launch, as did Eleanor. And Eleanor, we did a reading at Community Garden. You guys, we are running the scene down here in Austin, Texas. Us three, for sure. Do you feel that way?
Yeah. Except, I mean, okay, local poetry scene gossip. But did you see that Austin's gonna get its first poet laureate? Like for the
you mean
city?
the thing that I sent an application to on Saturday?
Oh.
I applied.
Well, I hope you get it. Yeah, I don't know. Can we vote for you? Is it like prom king or queen or?
He won that too.
Yeah, let's take a little detour here. I was prom king in high school. Let's not forget. Did you know that about me, Steph? Did you know I was prom king? Is that what you
said? I thought that's why she said it.
No, what kind of high school did you go to?
A normal one?
Yeah, a normal one.
A normal public style high school. I was junior year prom king, which some people seem to consider a lesser version of the prom king. We had 2 prom kings, but yeah, I don't think it's like that. There's no voting. There's a panel that's going to select it. And so I guess we'll just have to wait and see next year if I'm Austin Poet Laureate. But that is interesting. It's going to be the first Austin Poet Laureate, isn't it? It's like they just established it, right?
Yeah, I don't think they'd let a podcaster be poet laureate, though.
You think this is gonna disqualify me?
Yeah, like they're gonna. I mean, there's literally like hours of you saying shit online.
Yeah,
Aside from your Twitter, so there's
but
probably some disqualifying nugget in
what have I
there.
said that's disqualifying? I think the only thing that I've said that's disqualifying is I don't like slam poetry, which honestly might disqualify me from being the poet laureate. You probably have to like pretend to like that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Or
maybe they won't.
after this, Matthew McConaughey. I mean, Matthew McConaughey runs Austin. You know that. So
That's so
after this
true.
episode, he's not gonna let you get it.
Yeah, you're right. Unless I mean, what if we like the poems though? Maybe he'll use his political weight to get me in that position. Maybe politically, diplomatically, I have to like his book. Boy, that would be hard to do. I'm so happy to have you here, Steph. What you been up to lately?
Just promoting your book, and I don't know. Like I started lifting weights recently.
Oh yeah.
On the advice of our friend Sam Cummins from the NFFC Alumni Podcast.
Shout out, huge shout
Yeah,
out.
shout out. And
I know Alexi from that.
Oh, that's crazy. Small world.
Mhm. And then what else? I don't know. I've been I did a tarot reading for someone today that was like really creepily accurate, but it like really sapped me energetically.
Oh,
So
tell me more. What was accurate about it?
well, it was like I drew the Ace of Cups for her, and obviously like the imagery is meant to be interpreted symbolically, but it was very bizarre. She actually had written, or she had drawn in her notebook a very similar image just a couple days beforehand. And in her case, it was literally a situation with like cup and water that she was trying to figure out for an art project. And so it was like this tarot card I drew literally represented, something that she was working on making. And I could tell
Weird.
that it was like not a coincidence. It was like a real psychic connection because
Yeah.
right after the reading, I just felt so like depleted of my life force, like immediately. And then had to go home and just like conk out for like 2 hours.
That's
So yeah.
insane.
Mhm.
I remember you saying you got your palm read semi recently, correct?
Mhm.
Palms, and I think you said that
Mhm.
you noticed that it really drained the person in a similar manner. Yes.
Yeah. So the palm reader that I went to, her nose started running and she started sweating through her clothes.
Well,
And she was like, "Oh, this don't mind me. Like this always happens when I read for people. Just the sinus issues plus the sweating." So that's how you know it works. Like if you're ever wondering if like a psychic situation is real or not, like there will be physical signs.
that's so crazy. What is that? I guess there's just some sort of physiological effect from tapping into this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you know who would be great to talk to about this?
Tell me.
Matthew McConaughey.
We have a
But
lot to get to before we get to Matthew McConaughey.
I know,
by the
but I
way.
also want to share like I had a Matthew McConaughey related synchronicity that
Oh
happened
shit.
like 5 minutes before I like fired up to do the podcast with y'all. I was watching like there's this new show. I just like put like shows on while I'm like doing shit like brushing my teeth. And there's this new
Yeah.
show on Netflix called Later Daters, and it's
Mm.
people in their 60s or older who are like going on blind dates.
Cute.
And there was this one white woman, like big poofy blonde hair, and she was just telling her dating coach like she wants someone who's just like Matthew McConaughey. And her entire episode, she was just like, I was literally brushing my teeth, getting ready to come and do the podcast, and she's just going off about how she won't accept a date that's like anything less than Matthew McConaughey, essentially.
Okay, first of all, I feel like that is a bad place to start off dating, to be like, I want someone who reflects this celebrity that I really like. So I kind of feel bad for her, but that is crazy. Does she want someone that looks like him, or does she want someone with his charm and charisma?
Everything. Like, she wanted like someone who was tall, fit, great sense of humor, charismatic. She also said great feet, which is a weird thing for a woman to say, but
definitely. It's rare. I think a woman foot fetishist is a rare thing. Seems
yeah.
I've never
I don't
heard
see
of
them
that.
on Twitter as much. Yes.
They're quiet. They're a silent population, but we support them. Marcus, do you know who Matthew McConaughey is?
I did enough background. I did some background reading to not be totally in the dark, but to not like. I didn't want to dull the effect of my legitimate response. It's like not
Thank
really,
you.
because
That's
I think in last episode, and it was included, where I said, "Is that the guy from Good Will Hunting?" Because I know that's like Matthew something, right?
wait, who's
Um,
the Matthew in Good Will Hunting?
Matt Damon.
Matt
yeah,
Damon.
same thing,
Yeah.
same fucking thing.
So different, but
So I went through his filmography, and I have seen one movie with him, and it's definitely, I can't call it a deep cut. I can't even call it a B-side. It's like the rarity on cassette that even the diehard fans don't like. It's a movie called Reign of Fire, as in REIGN, and it's
I love
about
that movie.
dragons like surfacing to the earth and like murdering the human population. Yeah.
It's a post-apocalyptic movie with dragons, and Matthew McConaughey plays a fucking psychopath with an axe.
Yeah, that's
this
the one movie I've
I
seen
need to
him in.
watch this.
yeah, this sounds good as
Otherwise,
hell.
I have no idea who this guy is, and like if he has charm, then it was lost to me. I know a few movie people. I don't, but yeah, he eluded me, I guess.
Eleanor, what is your background with Matthew McConaughey? Feelings on him?
I don't know. I think he's all right.
He's
Pointedly
he's all
not
right.
adding to it.
Do you want to
Wait,
finish
go on.
that sentence,
Yeah.
Eleanor? You think
How
he's
all right is he?
yeah? How many all rights would you?
He's pretty all right.
Eleanor's not playing our game.
I feel like I
but-
just witnessed an abortion. That was
yeah, absolutely. It's so funny. That's something that Marcus would say. You know, Steph and Marcus, I'm so glad that you guys are meeting in a sense on this podcast. Have you guys talked before?
Yeah, here and there.
on Twitter. Yeah.
Wow, I love when my friends become friends. That rocks.
She's kind of toxic.
Hey, whoa. Okay, first of all, that is the pot calling the kettle black. Second of all, don't attack our guests. Third of all, why is she toxic? This is actually a good transition into what I want to do next. So go on that.
I guess we're going full poetry now. I just describe whatever meaning I feel like it on a given day to toxic. It's just like a talismanic word for me.
Yeah,
I
you
just
just
Ooh,
got to call
throw
it.
it
talismanic.
at come what may to anyone. And you know, I probably use it most when I feel completely all right. Like if I'm at peace, then I'm just throwing and hurling toxic and
You feel
allegations of
completely-
toxicity to those near and dear.
Well, you know, Marcus, you put the manic in talismanic. Okay, so
Ooh. You know, but Steph, you are a little bit toxic in the sense that, let me finish. You are a bit of a hot take factory. Would you agree with the
That's
statement?
not true. No, I don't.
You
I totally.
are! Get out of here!
That
I'm
was my first
persecuted.
impression of you. That was like my first impression of
I'm
you.
wrongly persecuted for my mild and moderate presence.
I don't know. I think you love to peel off a nice hot take here or there, but I'm not saying you're like an edgelord. You just love to participate in the discourse, and you love to take a heterodox position. You know what I'm saying?
I love to be a voyeur, and yeah, and comment on what I see, you know, in the zoo of life. A
Yes.
phrase that, you know, on par with Matthew McConaughey's poetry.
Don't give him too much credit. I like Zoo of Life. I mean, more than a lot of the things I read. But we'll get to him. But before we do, I wanted to play a quick little game with you, Steph, because I wanted to get some of those classic Steph Duhem hot takes onto the podcast. I wanted to dry some lines in the sand, and I wanted to see how you handled this. So we're gonna play a little game. We're gonna play a little game.
Ooh.
And I did not steal this game from any popular online music publication. It's called Overrated, Underrated.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you a thing, and you're going to tell me if that thing is overrated or if it's underrated and why.
Oh, God. Okay. We'll try. Well, I might abstain certain things. Okay, go ahead.
You're not allowed to say something is in the middle. You have to pick overrated or underrated.
Okay.
Because that's what makes it a game. Okay. First one, we're going to throw it. This is going to be an easy one and a relevant one. Online literary journals. Overrated or underrated?
Underrated, actually, because there are many of them, and I find gems in like no name internet journals, like literally all the time. And so I actually think they're quite underrated because I kind of feel like the discourse, like the position, you know, is that there's too many of them. They're all publishing, you know, just flop or whatever, but it's not true. I mean, it is like to some extent, yes, but like I not infrequently find very good poems in online literary journals. I would say they're underrated. Yeah.
Okay. Already a hot take because that's not what I expected you to say, but I like, you know what, I would generally agree. I mean, I feel like print media has a sort of privileged position in this kind of realm, but maybe that's misguided.
I find terrible poems in print media all the time.
Yeah, and it's like, why did a tree have to die to make this?
Yeah, exactly.
Reach my eyes. Yeah. But that's interesting because I know you've said you liked print media. I mean, you were recently published in a print magazine, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I've been publishing more in print recently. I've made an effort to publish in print.
Okay, so you like them both.
Yeah.
I love print media. You love print media. I like print media. You like print media? I like print media.
Well, my next one for you is, Steph, is moving from Twitter to Blue Sky.
Is that overrated or underrated?
Yes.
I mean, it's obviously overrated given that they're all coming back. Like,
oh, are they coming back? I didn't realize that.
Yeah. There's been
the Exodus failed.
I mean, I don't know how many times they've tried to do an Exodus.
Yeah,
you know?
but this one felt really like big. Like this most recent Exodus from Twitter to Blue Sky felt like the most, like the biggest, most serious one, right?
Yeah, they've gained like 2 million like people since
That's a lot.
The election or something like that.
Yeah. Are any of us going there? Anyone here going to Blue Sky?
No.
Yeah, I'm on Blue Sky.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wait, you're not even on Twitter these days.
Yeah, that's crazy. You changed my
I just
mind
made a
about
Blue Sky.
Substack like several months ago, and now you're changing my mind about another thing. God damn it, I hate when I'm wrong.
I fucking hate Twitter, but I thought I'd try out Blue Sky because
What are you
it's another place to share my stupid thoughts. And
so wait, are you actively tweeting on Blue Sky? Whatever the fuck, posting on Blue Sky?
yeah.
Okay, this
What do
fucks
you
me
what do
up
you
because
post? What
fucks
do you
me up because
post? Like what do you post?
Like literally nothing important, just random thoughts.
well,
I'm trying to get
that's
better at expressing myself because I'm extremely bad at it.
that's not true at all. You're on a podcast, you have a Substack, you express yourself to me all the time.
Yeah,
Eleanor,
when you ask,
okay, that's true. I sometimes have to pull it out of you. Okay, the next one. This one's gonna fuck you all up. Are you guys ready? Overrated or underrated? End rhymes. End rhymes in a poem.
Overrated.
Overrated. Okay, all right. Tell me why.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I personally I love internal rhyme. Um,
Yes, I've noticed
uh,
this. I remember when we
yeah.
first met and exchanged chat books. I read your chat book, and I was really taken by how much internal rhyme and phonetic play drives your poetry.
Yeah, and that's been one of the things that I've been criticized for actually in my MFA workshops, and professors have been like, this is too much. Like there's too much like assonance and yeah, and too much internal rhyming and stuff like that. So no, I just I don't like anything heavy-handed.
Yeah.
And the other reason I don't like end rhymes is because like Twitter trads are obsessed with them.
Okay.
You know, they're all, I feel
Yeah.
like, I don't know, like the marble statue avatar crowd is like, why doesn't poetry rhyme anymore? And it's,
Yeah.
they'll
Yeah.
post
Yeah.
some fucking
Yeah.
like Mother Goose nursery rhyme or some shit like that.
Cat in the
Right.
Hat
Yeah.
Um, and I like
with
can't
with like
stand
faux
that
Latin.
contention. Yeah,
Yeah. With faux
exactly.
Latin. The next one is mulled wine. What do you think of mulled wine?
Overrated. What's,
Oh,
I mean, come on, just,
absolutely not.
Oh,
oh my God,
God!
no.
I rarely have a gustatory take.
You don't
No,
like
I
it.
mean it's just like what's wrong with the wine? Like what's wrong with the wine that you have to do something else to it? You know what I mean? Like
Come on, you throw a cinnamon stick in there, you heat it up a little bit, you throw some cloves in there. Ooh, you scoop it into a little mug. Cozy. You put on a film. Sounds nice, right? It only makes sense like 2 months of the year.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, next one is Austin, Texas. Overrated or underrated?
Oh, it depends on which friend circle you're in. So
Mm,
in this group, I'll say that it's underrated. But if I were
yeah.
if I were with a different friend group, I'd say that it's overrated.
Okay, that's a very diplomatic response. You
Yeah.
flatter us and then you throw the other people under the bus. I like that. I have one more for you. And I'm allowed to ask this because I'm the only one of these on the podcast right now.
Okay.
White people.
Um. Again, it depends on the context. Very, very, very dependent. I don't know, like
Yeah.
if I
We
were
really run the gamut.
No, I mean it's like if I were in certain specific grad seminars, I would say one thing and then what it's fine.
Okay, you won't
Um,
answer that one. That's fair. That
no,
was
no.
yeah. Marcus, white people, overrated or underrated?
Underrated.
Underrated. Ooh. Tell me more.
I'm trying to think to condense it, or maybe just leaving it as underrated is actually just like I'll just leave it at that. It'll, keep people
Okay.
on their feet,
Yeah,
on their
okay.
toes.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
here's what I'll say. All my friends who are white are underrated, and all my enemies
Yeah.
who are white are overrated.
Absolutely. Another diplomatic response. I shouldn't let you do this, but I've been giving you enough hell. Eleanor, what about you?
You know, it depends on the mood that I'm in.
Okay, what right now?
Right now, we can go with underrated.
Yes, let's
Oh, hell
go.
yeah.
Another
Okay,
dub on the
wow.
board for white people. Let's go. Okay. All right. Well, that's the overrated, underrated. Marcus and Eleanor, do you guys have anything to throw at Steph and check the temperature, the rated temperature?
Boba tea.
Oh, no, overrated. So overrated. I don't know.
It tastes so good. What's wrong with you? Why,
Well,
I don't
Marcus,
like
that
it.
surprises
why do you
me.
hate freedom?
I'm surprised to hear you say this, Marcus, because you are of anyone I know, you hate sweets and sugar. Like you are not at all into pastries and sodas and candy.
Oh yeah, true. It might just be when I do get it or have, I always ask for like if I can't go, or I can usually ask for completely unsweetened, or just say
Yeah.
like the smallest amount that you do. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because to me, a boba equals like 60 fucking grams
That
of
makes
sugar.
that
or
makes
whatever.
sense. That makes sense.
Speaking of stupid shit, I would love to quickly talk about a viral poem. Let's get into some poetry now. Thank you, Steph, for playing this
Thank
game.
God.
Nah, let's not.
Come on, guys. Come on. We're all poets here in some capacity. We got to have some poetry. And I wanted to talk about.
Yes.
No, Eleanor.
Boo.
Eleanor. No! Everyone needs to fix their attitude right now. Eleanor, everybody, I wanted to talk about a poem that went sort of viral on Twitter quite recently. And I just wanted to see what everyone thinks about it. This is a poem called For a Student Who Used AI to Write a Paper, and it's by Joseph Fasano. The person who posted it was at Makadagat, and she said, "This poem, what the fuck? The ending, OMG, please, I'm obsessed." And then 3 crying emojis. So I will read it. For a student who used AI to write a paper, now I let it fall back in the grasses. I hear you. I know this life is hard now. I know your days are precious on this earth. But what are you trying to be free of? The living? The miraculous task of it? Love is for the ones who love the work.
Wow. I kind of love this poem now that you've read it out loud.
Shut up! Shut up! You are such a hot. You're just trying to take the
Yeah,
opposite
I'm
position.
just, I am. I'm just.
You should be the
Just being
permanent fourth,
contrarian.
Mike. Yeah, you are being contrarian. What do we think?
This poem's annoying as fuck.
Why?
Because it's so obnoxious. It's like, oh, by not doing your homework, you're missing out on the meaning of life.
Thank
What?
you. Thank
Fuck
you.
off.
Oh my
Fuck
God.
off.
Thank you. You said exactly. This poem is saying if you don't do your homework, you are not deserving of love. That is what this poem is saying.
It's so stupid.
Oh yeah, I guess you're right. I guess that is what it's saying.
I think the title ruins it.
Yeah,
The title
it
Because-
ruins
makes
it.
me want to kill myself.
Yeah, because if this was about, you know, a student who used AI to paint a portrait, it would have a whole different meaning. I would actually get what it was saying because a lot of people
Oh,
are
I
using
see.
AI to shortcut art,
Mhm.
and that defeats the whole fucking point of it. So that I
Oh.
get, but like not writing a fucking essay for school.
Mm.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, like how would it change if the title was For a Student Who Used AI to Write a Poem?
It wouldn't for me.
You think it
Say
would
more.
still suck?
Yeah, because this I think is a really deliberate, like, oh look, it's in all caps title font. It's just latching on to the like cultural, I don't know, battleground, battle du jour, and just creating trash from it. Just I hate it. I don't care. I've taught classes and like no one can write. If people make papers with AI, it's probably just like a little worse. I don't know. I'm over it.
Like, I
Good.
feel like if it said, okay, I feel like if the title were For a Student Who Used AI to Write a Poem, I would actually kind of fuck with it.
I kind of agree with that. I didn't even
Yeah.
think of that, but I kind of agree with that. But say more.
No, yeah, because the part that's like discordant is that like writing a paper is like a distinctly negative memory from anyone who's been through the public or even private education system, I assume. But this last half, what are you trying to be free of? The living the miraculous task of it, and that writing a paper has nothing to do with living or
Literally
miracles. And so
Yes.
that's what's so grating is like that consciousness. But to write a poem, that totally shifts the meaning, right? Because writing a
Yeah.
poem is like living a miracle. So that to
Yes.
me would be like, okay, actually that kind of makes more sense. Yeah.
Absolutely. I didn't even think of that, but that would shift the poem in a better direction, I think. I do really hate the line, "The living, the miraculous task of it." The miraculous task of living? Like, what does that actually mean? Like to me, that is like the par excellence example of like poetic language that when you actually dig into it is like, again, that means nothing to me, right?
You don't think
And then
life is a
it's
miracle, August? What?
I think like life is a miracle, but the miraculous task of living, the miraculous task of living, what does that mean? I don't, the task of living itself, and the way it's phrased, it's
I
so.
bet you're pro euthanasia too. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not. I'm not entering
I'm
that
totally
particular
just
discussion.
kidding.
Love is for the ones who love the work. I want to paraphrase an exchange I had with David Porter on Twitter. What if I
David,
don't
shout
want
out to
to?
David, a great unsung like hero, like a great unsung
Great writer.
artist overall.
I like that
Excellent fucking
account.
writer.
Yeah.
Yeah, great poet. And he was just like, what if I want to hang out? What if I want to be a lazy? Like, does that mean I don't deserve love? Like, you know what? What if this fucking student who used AI to write a paper, what if they used AI to write a paper so they can go and fall in love with somebody? What if they used AI to write a paper so they can go fucking, I don't know, fucking go fishing with their grandpa before they died or something? Isn't that living?
I guess I took more liberty in reading that part. Like I just thought they were writing the paper was just a stand-in for any like task that you know person being addressed doesn't want to do. So that's why I still retain like such like a vehement loathing for this poem.
Yeah, I mean, it feels just like the language itself is like, I know your days are precious on this earth. Why do
The
I
line,
on this earth?
the line cuts are obnoxious. Yeah, I agree. The
Obnoxious line,
Yeah.
and then
yeah.
and then it does this thing that I hate when poems do. It's like, oh, and by the way, you get to the last line, and oh, here's what you get. Like, this is the thesis of the poem. Like, you
Yeah,
don't let
here's
us
the
get there.
moral. Yeah.
Here's the moral of the poem. You can just set it. Here it is. You don't have to think about it too much. Here's a little bit of beautiful language about life and living and love and preciousness of life. And then guess what? Love is for the ones who love the work.
Okay, proposed revision. Okay, what if the title were "For the Ones Who Love the Work," and
the
it
ones who love the
actually
work.
ends with the line "task of it"?
I mean, but
Because it would flip.
hmm.
It would flip the meaning. It would flip the meaning so that it's like the people who love the work are the ones who aren't living. You know.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's much stronger. But then where do we get any of the AI in there? I mean, like, it would just change
No,
the entire
the AI
equation of the
is the
poem.
most, yeah, the AI is the most obnoxious part of it because it's obviously like trying to pick the current thing to
Yes.
discourse on. Yeah.
Yeah. I completely agree. I can't stand this guy's
I've
poems.
mentioned I've mentioned this in probably several previous episodes now, but this feels to me like one of those poems that was tailor-made to try and be a viral poem.
Hmm.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. And this is another poem in the category of only bad poems go viral, which we talked about in episode 4.
What if someone on the Austin Poet Laureate panel really likes him?
Well,
Yeah,
then I
you've
don't want
totally
their approval.
disqualified.
Good. Then they won't like my stuff. Then it's already the game's already over. Okay. Okay, today's book is a selection of poems by the one and only Matthew McConaughey. These poems were taken from his book Greenlights, which was published in October of 2020. This is a book collection, I don't really know. It's a hybrid collection of, what does he say? Prayers, poems, and bumper stickers and stories, or something like this. It was published to massive sales in 2020, Greenlights. And I basically just kind of snipped every poem and every poem-like part out of it. And that's what we are looking at today. So, for starters, I would love for somebody to pick a selection to read from this book.
I'll begin with a brief one.
Okay, let's hear it.
Made for the moment. We are all made for every moment we encounter. Whether the moment makes us or we make the moment. Whether we are helpless in it or on top of it, the predator or the prey. We are made for that moment.
That's it. Why did you pick this one, Marcus?
Because it's just so bad.
Why is it bad?
And it made me have like two immediate like pop culture things came to mind. I don't know, and maybe I think I had this conversation with you in person years ago, August. That there has to be a name for just like whether the moment makes us or we make the moment. Like when you're inverting like the subject and object and it still could plausibly make sense. Like
Right.
I'm sorry, only Gucci Mane can do that and like not make me mad. And at the end, we are made for that moment. Okay, this whole thing is just like um I guess they still exist in irony posting, but I think of like maybe MySpace era inspirational like quotes on an image of like a beach or something. So it's just that. And then the last line made me remember the song, and I I I don't know who I'm blanking on the artist, gosh, because I know they were part of a different group. We Belong to the Light.
Oh yeah.
Benatar?
Excuse me. Yeah, Pat Benatar. Yeah, for sure. And so I just had those two musical references, and the fact that the whole thing just kind of read like I'm gonna use this. I see slop. I'm just gonna post it around. I like this like MySpace Live Journal era inspo quote slop. Yeah.
Yeah, this one is definitely would qualify as slop. I can't pick a single moment in this poem that even stands out. It's got just such a beige quality to me. I think it's a good place to start because there's a lot of poems that are exactly this. Of just like a single sentimental insight.
I'd hesitate to call it an insight.
Well,
That's
okay.
like an insult to
Cliche.
cognition.
Okay. I mean, it's a great place to start. What was everyone's sort of overall take from this from reading all of these poems? And also, I would also like to say, and I'd also like to hear from Steph, like your relationship to Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, so I thought he was I mean, I've really liked him in romantic comedies. That was my first exposure to Matthew McConaughey. And then I like that ramped up even more during first season of True Detective. Like I was for some reason like him just being, this like drugged out like sort of appearance. Actually, I found that appealing. So I've had a crush on him, sort of like I don't like hero worship him or anything, but I've had like a slight crush on Matthew McConaughey for like probably 2 decades at this point. And this podcast episode, like preparing for this podcast episode and reading these poems, like cured me of that.
Okay. So this
Um,
removed your crush. This gave you the ick.
I mean, yes, it gave me the ick, but like if I saw him in the Whole Foods, I would still blush, you know? I would still
Sure.
'cause I never I like it's not like I fell, into um fell into infatuation with him for his poetry.
Mm,
So,
mm,
I
mm.
would probably still be a flutter if I saw him in the Whole Foods, but
Mhm, mhm.
like I don't know. I mean, it's really unattractive to write this way. And
S
I don't know, it's like funny that Marcus picked this poem because I don't even remember reading it, and I
Yeah,
read
this
every
one made
page.
0 impression, yes.
I read every page of this document, and this one I just totally forgot. But like, so many of these poems are just very forgettable because they're very like Instagram captiony, you know?
Mhm, mhm,
Like
mhm.
you could see like this poem could have been an Instagram caption, hashtag moment, hashtag I don't fucking know.
It absolutely could just be
Yeah.
an Instagram
Yeah.
caption. Eleanor, what did you think? What was your impressions of reading these poems?
I don't know. I didn't like it. I didn't hate it. They're just kind of whatever. As soon as I started reading, I was like, yeah, this checks out.
Yeah, it kind of plays into his like celebrity persona in a really strong way. He's got such a
I
strong
no
brand.
comment.
Why?
Oh, because I don't know what his celebrity persona is. He was the guy
It's
in
just
Rain of Fire,
exactly
and that's the
this.
extent. Like I know.
Yeah. Well, okay. To give Marcus some context, maybe Steph can help me out here. Uh, I would say Matthew McConaughey. He's to encapsulate his brand. He's sort of a smooth talking Texan. He's got sort of the like a folk wisdom aspect to him, right? And he's. Would you agree with that, Steph?
I mean, I think he tries to project that. Yeah, like he
Yeah.
has a southern drawl that's very pronounced. A little
Yes.
too suspiciously pronounced, actually.
Sure, but put
But
on.
yeah, and he definitely tries to be folksy and common, sort of like the common man type thing. Like he has a poem
Yes.
about I want to bring up the next poem, but it's about white collar prayers versus
I'm
blue
looking
collar
at it right
prayers.
now. Yes,
What
please read
what
this
page is
one.
it? What
It's on page 32.
Okay. And that one, yeah, it's crazy because it's like he's like this probably like, multimillionaire who knows how many hundreds of millions of dollars he has.
Oh my God, yeah.
Um, so this poem is titled White Collar Prayers. Ever been to a Baptist church in the Deep South? They pray real prayers. They pray for things they need. God, if I'm sick, bring me a doctor. God, if I'm sued, bring me a lawyer. God, if I'm cold, bring me a blanket. God, if I'm hungry, bring me some food. Blue collar prayers. Then there's the privileged prayers. They pray fake prayers. They pray for things they want. God, help me win this game. God, make mama buy me that dress. God, get me an Oscar nomination. God, let me get that yacht. White collar prayers. We need to quit asking God to answer these types of prayers. He's busy trying to get a new set of tires.
I think it's funny that he throws in God, get me an Oscar nomination. It's like, I'm sorry, nobody can really relate to that one except for you, Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, that was
Well, I think that's what
gratuitous.
he's saying in this poem, but it's like
Yeah, he's trying to distance
you
himself from
are
his like
it's like
Hollywood.
you are in the latter category, buddy.
Yeah. So here's what I'll say about this book. We read mostly the poems from this book. It's also threaded through with a lot of prose that we didn't read, a lot of memoir stuff, a lot of stories from his life. And you composed this book by going into the desert without electricity for several weeks, a few times apparently, and going through his old journals. So I feel like gives you a flavor, a taste of like what it's corny. Like he's corny. He's so corny.
I mean, his whole vibe, if you had to sum it up, is He's a beatnik who was born like 30 years too late for the movement.
And got way too rich, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like he's like he's 100% like it's like a beatnik thing. And when you hear him read some of these poems, he's kind of like bebop in it, you know? He's got this kind of
Yeah, like I could definitely see someone
swagger.
playing some upright bass to this fucking shit.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. He's like trying to talk to the common man. And I was kind of going back and forth for a while, and I'll get to my conclusions later, but like, how authentic is he? Like, do you think this is like, is this like a put on? Is this a brand exercise? Or do you think he's like really feels like he's imparting wisdom to people?
I think maybe it's a little bit of both. It's hard to tell because he's
It is hard to tell.
obviously really good at playing this kind of character because he does it in several movies. But
Right,
it is
and that particular thing is like he plays this character. Is he just
right.
playing the Matthew McConaughey character throughout this book, or is
Well,
this
that's what
just
I'm
really
saying. Like,
his internal world?
it's hard to it's hard to say because he could be playing a character, but like if so, then he's doing it really well because it's perfectly believable that he's just like this.
Well, I did a little digging on his background because I was like, did he grow up rich? Like, what was his situation? You know, because the one of the first sort of poems in this book is like about his abusive childhood. Like,
Yeah.
like his parents threw him in a lake to drown, and then he got molested. Like, it was crazy. Like, it was,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, and it does sound, you know, like, you know, to some extent, like it sounds like he had some elements of like a blue collar upbringing. But
Yeah.
at least according to Wikipedia, his father ran an oil pipe supply business.
Oh my God, really?
So they were in the oil industry in Texas, which is obviously extremely lucrative.
Yeah.
And a very like politically conservative industry,
Of course.
obviously. So I kind of get it. You know what I mean in terms of the norms that he grew up with. They're just kind of rough and tumble. But I don't believe or buy that he was ever poor, you know, or
Interesting.
even like necessarily struggling.
And I think he really thinks a little bit thinks of him like I think he is high on his own supply a little bit. Like I think he thinks of himself as like this is the things I learned on the road of life, right? Like I do think that he like I think he believes this shit. Like that's I guess what I'm trying to say. It's like I do think he believes this shit. And I would classify, you know, I was kind of trying to like think about how to classify his poems, and I would classify them as someone once said this phrase to me, wisdom poetry, and it really stuck with me. Michael Hesselmeal said this to me once. And you know, there's this like tradition of wisdom poetry throughout the ages. It's especially prevalent in like pre-modern societies and this kind of thing. And it's this sort of mix of both secular and religious, which you see throughout this. There's like sort of gestures towards spirituality, while there's also sort of a secular nature to it. The sort of like it's all about the unknown. He's never like explicitly Christian or anything like that. And it does it work as poems? I ask you. I put this question on the table.
I mean, it depends on how you classify poetry, I think.
Would you classify these
and
as poems?
Yes, in a
They look like
sense,
poems.
like yeah, in a sense they kind of are, but they're more like I don't know, essay snippets. At least
Yeah, I mean,
that's how it seems to me. Well, I
they're
mean,
not
like some of them are
craft.
obviously poems because they like rhyme and stuff, but
Yeah,
a lot of them are just like, paragraphs.
they're fragments. They're sort of
Yeah.
these random sort of sketches. It reminded me when I was looking into the like 8 years ago when I was like delving into like haiku, the history of haiku and stuff. There was this genre of Japanese poetry or Japanese books called zuihitsu. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It was these books that were just kind of like fragments of poems and stories and wisdom and pop philosophy and pop psychology all kind of folded together. So there's a tradition that he's I think working in here.
Yeah, but you you like shared that in your notes, and I kind of read up on it a little bit, and I feel like
Uh-huh.
point of Suihitsu is that it's just like, kind of rambling, like train of thought kind of stuff. Uh,
Uh-huh.
and just trying to be honest as you write, whereas this feels like really forced. Like it feels like he's trying to come off all, like wise man. So
Yes.
I'm not sure if this really counts.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that it feels quite forced a lot of the time. And this is something we've hi Marlon. This is something that we've talked about a lot before, but like padding. Like a lot of this comes off as like hitting a page count sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I can see so, especially the really short ones.
Mm-hmm.
But I also like when I was reading this, I could kind of see like how there is some merit in like stuff like this because this is the kind of stuff like this kind of, I guess, quote unquote poetry is like my first, I guess, exposure to poetry because this is the kind of shit that my dad is into. Like, he would fucking love this book.
Your parents
He
love this book. My
loves,
mom loves this book.
Mhm.
yeah, he loves this kind of like inspirational poetry shit. Like, we hang some of it up in one of our bathrooms. Like, definitely goes for this. And he like, would share some of it with me when I was growing up here and there. And some of it did kind of help me in a sense, as a kid. Like now I'm just like, okay, whatever. But,
Mm.
when I was a kid, it genuinely kind of helped me get into mindsets that, kind of, I guess positive mindsets, you could say.
Yeah, the other thing that okay, I have a take on whether this is poetry or not based on one of his poems or one of
Mm.
his texts.
Mm.
Um, it's called Conservative Early, Liberal Late.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Should I read it?
Yeah. Yeah,
It's called
please.
okay. It's called Conservative Early, Liberal Late. Create structure so you can have freedom. Create your weather so you can blow in the wind. Map your direction so you can swerve in the lanes. Clean up so you can get dirty. Choreograph, then dance. Learn to read and write before you start making up words. Check if the pool has water in it before you dive in. Learn to sail before you fly. Initiation before inaugurations. Earn your Saturdays. We need discipline, guidelines, context, and responsibility early in any new endeavor. It's the time to sacrifice, to learn, to observe, to take heed. If and when we get knowledge of the space, the craft, the people, and the plan, then we can let our freak flag fly and create. Creativity needs borders. Individuality needs resistance. The earth needs gravity. Without them, there is no form, no art. So I actually think that kind of answers the question because,
Mm.
clearly he hasn't really studied poetry.
Right.
So by his own sort of guidelines, I don't know, like, is he attempting to write poems without studying poetry? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
according to his own sort of advice, he shouldn't be doing that, right? So
Right.
I would
Right.
have to assume that these are not poems,
Mm.
because otherwise they would be so amateurish and I don't know, just I don't know. You know what I mean? I mean, not
You're
to be
saying like
like,
the thesis of this particular
yes.
poem and
Well,
if
I can see like what you're saying based on, what this poem says, but the thing is he's fucking wrong. Like at least at least when it comes to poetry, because you do not have to study poetry to write poetry. And literally it's probably better if you start writing poetry before you start studying it because like that makes it more organic. Like
yeah.
poetry, the beauty of poetry is that you can just do it and you don't have to
Yeah.
have like a degree or whatever.
No. But even in terms of like no, I don't think you have to have a degree, but I think that like like, even if he'd read more poetry, like, that would be a little more evident in,
Oh yeah,
in
definitely. I agree with that.
yeah, that's just what I mean is like, I mean, because the argument that he's making aesthetically is kind of like, almost like that classic sort of Picasso argument, like he mastered realism before he, basically invented cubism and like the whole thing, and so in Matthew McConaughey's case, like he's creating these like Tumblr ass fragments. What gives him the license to do that? Like, has he read a lot of Tumblr? Like, like what do you like,
Right.
what in what way was he artistically conservative before he was artistically liberal? That's the question.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Sure.
Okay, when you
the
okay.
thing is that he's like not even really talking about art here. It's kind of just a big grift because it is also something my dad loves. Like, no matter what it is, he will find some way to make this the topic. But like, I feel like a lot of poems in this book actually kind of say similar things. And the gist of it is basically my dad loves saying is you have to work before you can play. And that's just code speak for your life is going to suck, but you should keep working. And later it won't suck as much, supposedly. Um,
He's just
and
like
like,
Joseph Fasano for real.
Yes. Wow. Great link back.
I feel like the kind of wisdom he's trying to pass off on people is coincidentally vague, and it's
Of course.
trying to reach as many people as possible.
It's like the shell game, right? Like this is the kind of like insight or like whatever that like is impressive and if you kind of squint your eyes, right? And then you actually look at what he's trying to say and it's kind of falls apart. It's like he's playing with these metaphors and he's kind of like moving these images around and like Marcus said, he's sort of like he'll say one thing and then he'll invert it and that's supposed to be the sort of moment of revelation or something like that. But at the end of the day, it just becomes sort of sentimental and cliche to the point where he ends up kind of saying nothing. Like you read this whole thing, and you kind of you come away with it with this idea of like, okay, life is good and hard, and things are good and bad, and like what do you like? What is the core of this? Like there's no there. You know what I mean?
It's vague enough that can appeal to a lot of people, but at the same time, its message, I feel like, is kind of like thinly disguised, like grind set mentality.
Yes.
It's like it's
I would
like grind
really
set
agree.
coated in a veneer of fucking hippie, like beat poetry shit.
That's really well said, I think. Grind set coated in a veneer of hippie beat poetry. Like that's exactly what this is. It's like ultimately it's like quite conservative at its core, I think.
Oh yeah,
Would you guys agree?
100%.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like I'm surprised there isn't a link to an NFT at the end of this,
Yeah, definitely. There's something interesting about Matthew McConaughey where like he's kind of libbed out in some degrees, and then in other ways he's kind of conservative. Like
He's
I
just a
guess
boomer. Like
he's just a boomer American. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because like conservatives are like, oh, he's a liberal because he did this whole like anti-gun thing after Sandy Hook. But then liberals think he's conservative because he's, Texan and he like was on Jordan Peterson's podcast and stuff. But
Well,
at the end of the day, yeah, you're right. He's just a boomer. All of you try to sum up his philosophy in like a sentence.
I'm
Can you do
I'm
it?
not gonna dignify like these scrawlings of like a person with a lot of money who is in a dragon movie by saying philosophy. It's not like an outlook, it's not a Weltanschauung, it's not a worldview, it's not there's no love of wisdom. This is just like it's a mindset, and I mean that in the most
Yeah.
meme sense. It's a mindset, and the mindset
Yes.
is the grind set, and
Yes.
this is just empty.
Yeah, it's kind of purely ego driven, really. At the end of the day, like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
feels like
yeah.
a big
Just purely ego.
exercise.
I mean, I'm just echoing what I had said about Drake, probably in less humorous and less in a less bombastic fashion. But yeah, this is just like ego, and I don't know anything about this guy, and I don't feel particularly like compelled to either.
I'm
I
looking
mean,
up how
look,
old he.
how old is he?
Yeah, he is 55. The perfect
Mm.
age for a man, 55. Should we read that poem "Man Enough"? I bookmarked that one because I
That
thought it
one made
was.
me shudder. That made me shudder. But sure, Steph should
Yeah,
read
wait,
it.
I
That
don't.
one was kind of standout in its weirdness, I think.
And because he spells enough, ENUF. I mean, it's like, man enough, ENUF.
Yeah.
Which is like the least masculine orthography I've ever seen in my life. Like,
Yes.
okay, I'm gonna read it. It's called Man Enough. Man enough. Man enough to admit I'm scared. Man enough to know it. Just man enough. Can't read it. I'm cracking up. Man enough to man up. Man enough to be a man.
What? That's what I'm talking
I'm,
about. He's like,
I'm
go
only
ahead. I'm sorry.
1/3. I'm only 1/3 of the way through the poem.
It's not
enough
even close. Yeah.
To be me, man, just man enough. Man enough to feel love. Man enough to know love. Man enough to love. Just man enough. Man enough to want to be there. Man enough to be on my way. Man enough to be in a traffic jam and know I need a road trip. Just man
What
enough.
the fuck?
Man enough to be drunk and sober. Man enough to be sober and drunk. Okay, I can't finish it. I'm sorry. It goes on. It goes on like
It's
this.
endless. It is
Yeah,
endless.
yes.
Okay. I feel like one thing we're running into with a lot of these celebrity poetry collections is that they do not have editors. Why is there not one person who's looking at this poem and cutting these lines? Like, I don't understand why there's nobody editing this. Man enough to be drunk and sober. Man enough to be sober and drunk. What does that mean? That is meaningless. There's two. That's the same thing twice in a row, inverted. It does not mean anything to do with that. Like it's just fucking. So many
Why
trees
is
were
it
killed to print
spelled
this.
ENUF?
Why is it
Like,
spelled
Change,
ENUF?
change your mindset. It's your
I can't
mindset.
change my mindset. I can't change my mindset. This is okay. Can I read my favorite one? Because I'm dying to read this one.
Yeah, what
This
is
is
it?
It's called "Today I Made Love to My Woman."
What?
Today I made love to my woman. Not because I wanted to right then. Pause. What? 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 Is this? Were you raped? I'm sorry. Okay. Today I made love to my woman. Not because I wanted to right then, but because I knew I'd want to once we started. And that the walk on the beach we took afterward would be more romantic. The cocktail I made at 5:45 would taste better. The shrimp I seasoned would have more savor. The all-star game we watched at 7 would be more exciting. The music we danced to till midnight would have more rhythm. And the conversation about life we had together sitting across the kitchen table from each other until 3 in the morning would be more inspiring. ... And it was.
He's such a pussy.
Is it? Isn't that?
I'm totally kidding, but also
You're
like it's
right.
just
He
funny
is.
to follow up like the Man Enough poem with this. That is it's
Isn't
like
that the poem that was in the Beach Bum?
I write poetry, you little bitch.
I mean, what else can we say about this? There's like it's a lot of text. There's no editing happening. It's about there's a lot of stuff about there's a line about money is the king of currency. Like what? Like it is just like the brain droppings of somebody who has not been told to know enough or something.
Yeah, and it's also like self-contradicting in an annoying way, but
Yeah.
it hides it very well because it spaces out the different poems. Because it's like the two mentalities are like, you're an artistic dreamer who cannot be held back and you don't have to try too hard. But then also you need to work your ass off and, keep your mind to the grindstone or whatever. And
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
those are two different things, buddy.
Okay, so I mean, yes, but okay, now I have to assume the mantle of Matthew Defender.
Okay, this is what I was waiting for.
I mean, okay, here's the thing though. Like August, imagine
Yeah.
you're at the downtown original ATX Whole Foods, right? And
I'm
you
there.
run into Matthew McConaughey over the Brussels
Yes.
sprouts.
Yes.
Like, what is your level of engagement? Like, are you know what I mean? Because like I agree with you, but I also feel like I can overlook all of this if he will only have me as his wife.
No, but I get what you mean because, like, okay, his real weapon is charisma, right? Like, he is unbelievably charismatic, right?
If he was so charismatic, he would be the first Matt I thought of, and not the Matt from Good Will Hunting.
You
You've
think Matt
only seen
Damon
him
is
in the
more
Dragon movie when he was playing a psychopath.
That's my point. Okay, I wasn't floored.
Yeah. Okay, well, okay. I want to move into an aspect of this that makes it distinctly more negative, and before you start even defending. Okay, wait, first of all, Steph, I want to give you a moment to defend him even further. What do you mean? Like, if I ran into him at Whole Foods, I would of course be starstruck. He's tall,
You would
he's
be
handsome.
starstruck. You wouldn't.
I would be
you
completely
wouldn't.
starstruck.
You wouldn't be like, why did you spell enough? NUFFU. You
No,
wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
You.
No, of course.
It would go out the window. You wouldn't even remember that we did a podcast episode about it. Like, you
Of
know
course,
what I mean?
and this is the
So-
sway he has on people, I think,
Yeah.
and I took extensive psychic damage in my research for this episode because I watched an 1.5-hour interview between him and Jordan Peterson, and
oh my
like,
god.
Bro.
okay, first of all, without even like, obviously I'm like predisposed to disliking Jordan Peterson, but listening to that guy talk is like getting a fucking root canal. That guy is boring and stupid, but I could not help but come away from that interview being like, God, Matthew McConaughey is kind of cool, even after reading all of this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I won't say much for his writing, but he still does seem like a cool person.
He's cool. He's chill. He's sort of lackadaisical and smooth. He kind of tosses off these little barbs of I don't want to say wisdom. I keep saying that, but wisdom without a second thought. Like, he does have this like magnetic nature.
You
him.
think he's wise? You
I
wanna
don't think he's.
kiss him?
I
You wanna
don't want to kiss him.
love him?
I would kiss him, but I don't think he's wise.
August and Matthew.
No, don't pick on me.
I didn't
But
know you
listen,
had such a fixation on this dude, and this dude sucks.
I don't have a fix. I don't buy into the meme of Matthew McConaughey. I
Okay,
promise,
well,
but,
you
like,
just made it sound like you like hook, line, and sinker. Like,
I'm just saying my honest experience of like listening to him a lot, like, and I will say, like, the Jordan Peterson interview. Don't go watch it. Like, you don't need to hear me say that.
I wasn't itching to.
Yeah, but there's like not a lot there. Like, the most interesting thing is when he talks about this recurring wet dream he has in the 90s that kind of encouraged him to visit Africa. But it's like,
Wait, who? Jordan Peterson or Matthew?
no, Matthew McConaughey. He talks about this, but it's not even a sexual wet dream. It's like some dream that he had that produced an orgasm, and then when he went to Mali, he was like, "This is my ancestral home." It's like really dumb. Like, I don't.
Okay, so I was just reading. I'm like trying to get sales numbers. This book, Greenlights, has sold
Yeah.
over 6 million copies. 6
That's
million
fucking
copies.
crazy. People love him. People love
Yeah.
him.
It's so
I mean,
depressing.
It is quite depressing. But now I'm gonna take a little negative turn here. In 2020, this book comes out. It sells quite well, of course. It's a New York Times bestseller. He does a book tour. Everyone loves it. It gets some middling reviews in the New York Times, etc., Times of India. But at the end of the day, whatever, successful book. Flash forward to 2023, and he does a live stream event. This live stream event is called The Art of Living Well. And I remember actually when this happened because it was kind of clowned on online and on Twitter for quite some time because it's quite a ridiculous video. Did any of you watch this particular video that I put
I
in
watched
the
a few minutes of it. Yeah, I watched because you brought up there were certain minutes that were highlighted. So
Yeah,
I watched.
what were your impressions of this video?
So, it's interesting because this is a little bit of a tangent, but I've been getting into the life coaching community recently.
Oh yeah.
And there's a big life coaching community in Austin. Like literally
Interesting.
like thousands of people who want to be life coaches, and I took like
You
a
shock me.
Zoom class about it, and I think that it's just interesting because when I took this like life coaching, like it was like a Zoom class for people that wanted to be life coaches, and the thing that sort of stuck with me from it was that most of the people that want to be life coaches have horrible lives. Like the other students in this class were like, retired or unemployed, had been like, disowned by their children or had just come out of addictions or were struggling with addictions actively even, but still somehow thought that they would be good life coaches. And the thing is to see Matthew McConaughey, like, here's this guy, multimillionaire, world famous actor, and when all's said and done, it horseshoe theories back into just like he wants to be a life coach. Like at the end of all of this, he wants to be a life coach, the same as like people who are broke and have no money or family or anyone who like cares or loves them. That was kind of
That's
striking to
interesting.
me.
Yeah. Did you
Yeah.
find that the content of this particular live stream video, The Art of Living Well, was sort of on the same tenor as these life coaching seminars?
Yeah, it was. Because the whole thing is like radical acceptance, and like you never judge your client, you never judge their life circumstances. And no matter how personally successful or unsuccessful you are, you're no more or less qualified to be a life coach, basically.
Interesting. This Art of Living Well live stream is like an hour and a half long, and it's a lot of the similar content as that's in these poems. At a certain point in the video, for example, he takes out a djembe drum and he's sort of freestyle bebopping on this drum while reading the live stream chat about what people want to get out of their lives, why they need, like, why they're there at the live stream.
I want to get back to being myself. I want to have more fun with my husband. Hey, thank you.
And this book kind of wraps up into this new venture that he started in 2023 called The Art of Living Well, which then kind of got rebranded into something called Road Trip. And so I started delving a little bit more into this, and this live stream is really, like, besides the bongo drum, I mean, I can't tell if Matthew McConaughey was on drugs or not, but he's really good at just kind of freestyling this shit. Like, I imagine after writing this book and going on a book tour, he got really good at just kind of like just shooting off this stuff like no problem. Like, he's just freestyling.
But it didn't seem like he was freestyling to me. It seemed very structured and written and rehearsed.
I mean, I think parts of it were, but I think there are moments where that he was just kind of like, he's just like really feeling himself. And a funny thing about this live stream is there's a lot of canned laughter and canned applause added to it, which makes the whole thing seem sort of bleak and ominous to me.
And you know what I'm sorry and congratulations at the same time fact of our situation is? No one's come to save us. That's the first thing we gotta admit.
This live stream was essentially an hour and a half long infomercial for this life coaching seminar series / subscription service that you pay anywhere from $500 to $1,500 for, and you're promised to reach your full potential, and you're promised essentially to fix your life. Okay, this is nothing new. It's like Tony Robbins. Are you guys familiar with Tony Robbins?
Yeah.
No.
He's like life coach. He's kind of this guy who like married like wellness with like financial advice really well, and made a huge buttload of money on like just kind of like teaching people whatever. It all seems really like fraudulent and exploitative to me.
One of my mortal enemies.
Tony Robbins, really?
I fucking hate that dude. I hate anyone who writes those kind of shitty business books.
Yeah, I guess working at you see them go out the door quite a bit. Yes.
Wow, way to dox me.
Shit, sorry. Hey, I worked there too. Whatever.
But yes, I have flipped through several of those types of books, and they're all for sociopaths.
Yeah. He partnered specifically with this guy named I think
Dean.
Grizosi. I don't really know how to pronounce his name.
Dean.
Grizosi or something like this. And this guy is like the ultimate like grifting dude. Like he spent like years doing these like real estate class grifts where it's like, oh, you can make $80,000 a month by just emailing people doing real estate stuff. This guy is like so deeply into like such a high level grifter that he does a class to teach people how to make classes to grift people. Like he's grifting the grifter. But I'll tell you when it got dark for me. One of the perks to when you sign up for this is you get access to a Facebook group. That is a private group where you can interact with other members of the Art of Living community or whatever. And I managed to worm my way into this Facebook group because when you try to join the group, it asks you for an email address. And I assume it just checks that email against a database of people who have paid for it. And so I just put in the email address of one of the people who runs the thing, and I got into the group. And it's a 600,000 member strong group. And so I'm like exploring this, and people post inspirational messages. To use Marcus's term, it's just Facebook slop. Here's an image of a woman drinking coffee and, you know, inspiring you to have a nice day or whatever. And whoever admins this group 100% uses ChatGPT to write all of the responses. It actually only really got dark for me when I went all the way back in this Facebook group to the very beginning, around the time when Matthew McConaughey did this live stream. And all these people flooded into this group after watching Matthew McConaughey's live stream and introduced themselves. It was people talking about how little money they have, the problems in their love life. I mean, it was trauma dumping left and right. I could really only read like 20 of these introductions. They see a celebrity with a lot of charisma, with a best-selling book, telling them to buy into this program, and they do it. And they're getting ChatGPT responses, and they're getting video packages, and they're getting upsold on all of these levels of this scheme. And it made the entire endeavor look much more grifty than the book alone looked. I posted one time in this community today asking people what their favorite line of Matthew McConaughey's poetry is. And I got one response from a woman named Darlene, who said her favorite line of Matthew McConaughey poetry is, "Don't walk into a place like you want to buy it. Walk into a place like you own it." And in a way, for me, that kind of captures the entire vibe of what's going on here. It is a cliche that is masquerading as wisdom, and it is probably how Matthew McConaughey actually deeply authentically approaches the world. So, fuck this
See,
book.
I didn't get that sense from what I read up on it. I got the sense that this was some scheme of Tony Robbins that he paid Matthew McConaughey to be the face of.
Oh, I mean, it's not Tony Robbins, though he's like tangentially related. It's this Dan Grozowski guy, or Dave Grozowski, or whatever his name is. Like 100%, like Matthew McConaughey came out with this book, and I'm sure this guy contacted him and was like, let's make some fucking money off of this. Like, let's make more money off of this. And
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey is probably like, sure, why
I
not?
doubt Matthew McConaughey actually has much to do with it, but he's just like, yeah, sure, I'll give a speech for it, whatever.
What do you think, Steph?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's like evil necessarily, but it's definitely distasteful. Though I'm so curious. Like I'm so curious about that culture and just like any sort of like almost toxic optimism, you know. And I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated by that culture and almost like envious. Almost envious of it. Like I wish I could be so innocent and pure and optimistic.
Marcus, what do you think?
Just 12 times more cynical than anything you could think of, so I'll leave it at that.
Do you think it's evil?
Yes, I suppose, but you know, it's evil is banal.
Anything to plug at the end of this podcast, guys?
Not really.
Steph, do you have any thing to say, or perhaps?
Not really. I don't really. I mean, I've a book coming out next year, but I'm not sure.
That's
when.
what I wanted to hear.
I have a book coming out next year, but I'm not sure when, so I'm not going to say too much about that. And then, don't hate me when I become a life coach. So yeah.
Yeah, but you're gonna do it in like a cool psychic and poetic way.
Yeah, I think
you'll be like Jeremy from Preep Show.
I believe in you.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Well, we look forward to that. Follow Steph on Twitter.
I'm at Moon and Mouth on Twitter and on Instagram.
Moon and Mouth Twitter. I also just want to throw out there, I didn't mention this before, but thank you to everyone who came out to my readings on my tour. Several people mentioned the podcast to me, and that was really nice to hear and made me feel good. So if you haven't bought my book, please buy it. And thanks to everyone who met me in person. I hope some of them are listening. And that's all I got. I really have to pee and feed my cat, and a little hungry. Maybe I'll make a frozen pizza.
All right.
It's perfect.